This is Victoria with TWRC Wildlife Center. What we do here at TWRC is take in injured, ill, and orphaned wildlife. We restore them to health. They're brought into us by people just like you who rescue them, and then we return them back to the wild. Now, wild animals have a good, healthy fear of humans, which is a really good thing. They need to be afraid of us because unfortunately they sometimes run into people who may want to harm them. But it doesn't mean that you can't help them. Did you know that if you find a baby bird or a baby squirrel on the ground, they don't necessarily need your help? Oftentimes a baby bird, as it's learning to fly or fledging, gets up on the very edge of the nest, flacks like crazy, and ends up on the ground. Happens all the time. And it's actually part of their training because they have to learn how to take off from the ground. So if they are on the ground and there is no danger to them, and you've looked around and you can see or hear mama bird or mama squirrel off in the distance, usually sounding very angry and making lots of noise, then that baby is probably okay right where he is. Now, danger to a baby bird or a baby squirrel are dogs, cats, small children that may want to play with them, fire ants, or flies. If any of those things are around, then what we can do is help that baby by picking them up with the help of an adult or a parent, anyone nearby who can help you. Pick them up, put them in what we call a secondary rescue nest. It can be made out of any kind of little tub or container like this or this little planter. You're going to put 6 feet of very strong string and then suspend the little pot with something soft inside for the baby at least 6 feet off the ground so dogs can't get to it easily. What will happen is mama bird or mama squirrel will hear the baby calling from the nest and come and feed him here until he's ready to go off on his own. Or if you know which nest that baby has fallen out of, you can actually pick him up and put him right back in the nest with the help of a parent or an adult. You may have heard of the myth that if you touch a baby bird, the mother bird will not care for it any longer. That is completely incorrect. Birds have little or no sense of smell. So to them, your scent means nothing. So if you put that baby right back into the nest, mama bird just says, "Oh, good, you're home," and starts caring for it again. So there is no reason to kidnap that baby from its parents and bring it to us unless it's in trouble. If that baby is injured or obviously orphaned, you've been looking around and waiting for hours and you don't see mama bird or mama squirrel, then it's time to bring them to us. You're going to put them in a box with lots of holes in the top, something soft inside for the baby, and bring them to us immediately. And this is the same situation with any adult wild animal that you might find. Now, it's important to know that it is illegal in the state of Texas to keep any wildlife as a pet. By state law, you have 24 hours to bring a baby bird to us or to a licensed rehabilitator, or 48 hours for any other kind of animal. So it's very important that you immediately bring them to us so that we can care for them properly and get them back out in the wild. And contrary to popular belief, anything that you read on the internet about how to feed and care for babies is usually wrong. So please, if you find a baby animal or any type of animal in need of help, go to our website first at twrcwildlifecenter.org and click on Found an Animal, as we'll give you accurate information on how to properly prepare that animal to get him or her to us so that we can take care of them. Now, what we're going to do is meet some of our animal ambassadors so we can learn a little bit about some of these amazing species that we have right here in Texas. We're going to start with 2 of my very favorite reptiles. This little girl right here is Gigantor. Gigantor is a 3-toed box turtle, and so is little lady here. Now, the interesting thing about these 2 turtles is that they are the same age, the same species, and the same gender. But you'll notice they're very different sizes. The reason being, both of these guys have what's called metabolic bone disease. MBD is a disease that can be contracted by most reptiles and can be fatal. What happened with these two is that they were both pets with two different owners. And both owners at some point brought them into us and said, you know, there's something wrong with my turtle. Can you tell me what it is? Come to find out, it's MBD. Now, we cannot cure metabolic bone disease. However, we can keep in stasis or from getting any worse by giving them a perfectly balanced diet of 4 different vegetables, a fruit, and a protein every day for a week, and then switching off to different types. And that gives them a proper balance of calcium to phosphorus in their diet, which helps keep the MBD in stasis. What happens with turtles who contract this disease, you may notice that there's lots and lots of damage along the edge of ladies' carapace or top shell. Part of that was actually caused by a dog attack, but the rest of it is from metabolic bone disease. What happens is that their shell basically stops growing and their body continues to grow. Picturing yourself in a t-shirt that's about 5 sizes too small would be really uncomfortable, right? Well, that's exactly what happens, what it feels like with these little guys. So, although reptiles look very dinosaur-like and super strong and tough, all reptiles are actually very fragile. They contract disease very, very easily. They get infections, and it's very hard to keep them happy and healthy. So we actually don't recommend any type of reptile as a pet. We recommend furry critters because they're actually easier to keep healthy. These little guys live on average about 25 years, so it's also a long commitment to have a turtle. So again, we don't recommend them as pets. And an important reminder, if you find a cute little turtle out in the pond, maybe in your community or out at the park, it is illegal to take him home and keep him as a pet. And if you see a cute little turtle out there, you gotta just leave him right where you found him. So now we're gonna put these little guys away. We're gonna meet another very cool reptile. This little guy, as I step off for just a second so I can bring him out. This little guy was brought to us by a reptile rehabilitator, a lady who cares for reptiles for us when they are found in the wild and brought to us. She gave him to us so that we can show you guys the difference between a bull snake, which is what he is, and a rattler. Because bull snakes are rattler mimics. Now, he does not have a rattle on the end of his tail. He just has these cute little polka dots. However, he can take his tail, whip it very hard against the ground, and it makes a slight rattle sound. He also has a special adaptation that allows him to mimic a rattle, and a hiss from his throat, which is very cool. You also notice he looks just a little bit like a rattler. Now, bull snakes are not native to Houston. They're actually from the Austin, San Antonio area and west because they live in sand and not that thick gumbo that we have here in Houston. However, people who have purchased them previously from breeders and pet stores have released some of them to the wild, and we now have what's called an invasive species. So if you hear a hiss in Houston, chances are it's a bull snake. Now is also a good time to tell you, please, to never, ever, ever release a pet to the wild. Pets do not know how to handle themselves in the wild. They don't know how to forage or hunt or find places to sleep. They don't know how to run and hide them from predators. So it is never, ever a good thing to release one to the wild. If you have a pet other than a domesticated animal, such as dogs or cats or bunny rabbits, if you contact us, we will help you find a home for that critter. Now, it's also really important to know that it's never, ever, ever a good idea to kill a snake. Snakes are basically non-violent creatures. These guys are incredibly shy, and they're really good at hiding from humans, which is why you may not know that you probably have them in your neighborhood. They're really good at hiding from us. But a non-venomous snake like JJ here never ever wants to bite you. He knows that he cannot win a fight with you. Now, he was brought into us a few years back, and he was 6'5" long at the time, which is the height of a very famous football player here in Houston by the name of JJ Watts. So we named him JJ Watts. Now that he's leaving the Texans, we may have to change his name. We haven't decided yet. Now, JJ is now 6'8" long. But when he's on the ground looking up at you, you look like a monster to him. All he wants to do is get away from you. And he knows that he can't win a battle with you. Now, a venomous snake, even more so, doesn't want to bite you because they only have so much venom in their fangs. It takes days and days to build up, and they know that they have to use that venom to get their dinner. And you cannot possibly eat dinner for any snakes found here in North America, so it's not something to be worried about. So one super, super simple rule. If you find a snake out at the park or somewhere near the bayou or even maybe in your yard, all you have to do is back up and walk away. Just leave him alone, let him do what he does. You may have heard myths or rumors in the past about how snakes will charge a person. That is also yet another myth. Snakes do not run towards a person on purpose. Now, snakes, like any other wild animal, when they are terrified, may respond by bolting. And they may bolt straight towards you rather than away from you. That does happen sometimes. If it does, sidestep away and let him go on by. He does not want to attack. All he wants to do is get away from you as quickly as he possibly can. So, never a reason to kill a snake. If you do find one, say, in your garage or even in your home, which happens sometimes, and you're a little bit nervous about that concept, all you need to do is contact one of the many companies here in Houston who will come and pick that snake up and safely take him out to the wild and release him so that he can continue to do what he does. The reason these guys are such good neighbors is because they eat mice and rats and things that we probably don't want hanging around our backyard. The smaller snakes around eat cockroaches. So really good neighbors to have. So never a reason to kill a snake. If we find one, we just leave them alone. And they're, again, I personally think they're awfully cute, but again, not great pets. And so we don't recommend them as a pet. Now, we're going to put JJ away. I'm going to step off for just a second and introduce you to an entirely different kind of critter, one who is very special to us. 1 second here. There we go. This is Iris. Iris is an eastern screech owl. Now, as you can tell, she's not very big, and she is average sized and fully grown. This is the most common type of owl in Houston, but very few people ever get to see them because, like I said, full grown and average size. She only weighs about 4 ounces or so. Now, these guys are amazing hunters. They're also raptors. They eat nothing but meat, so pure carnivores. And in the wild, they eat mice, rats, cockroaches, tree roaches, small snakes. She would also take things like lizards, frogs, eggs, anything that she can pick up with these little talons and take home with her is dinner. So, of course, it can't weigh very much because, like I said, she only weighs about 4 ounces. So it can't weigh a whole lot more than she does, or she can't lift it. But good neighbors to have because, like I said, they eat cockroaches. So good to have around. If you would like to have eastern screech owls hanging around in your yard, all you need to do is put an owl box up in your yard. And sooner or later, you'll get a mated pair who will come back for up to 12 years and have their owlets. Contrary to their name, they do not screech very often. They actually have a beautiful cooing trill sound that they make that is just lovely and not very loud. It wouldn't keep you awake at night. Now, Iris was brought into us as a tiny little nestling. She only stood about the size of 2 cotton balls, just a few days old. She had fallen out of an owl box, and the lady who saw her rescued her and was going to put her right back in the box, but she noticed that there was something wrong with Iris's right eye. As you can see, you can't really see that eye at all. It's almost invisible. It's actually in there. It's just very, very small. It never developed from the time that she was born. And she is blind on that side, so that's why she lives with us. Now I'm going to do a little turnaround here and see if I can get her to show you her properly sized eye, which is her left eye. There we go. My eye turn. There we go. Now you can see her left eye. There we go, which is the proper size. Now, sharing my very favorite owl fact with you, Iris's skull without the feathers is only about this big. So that eye is pretty big for a skull that small. Now, if your eyes were the same size in proportion to your head as hers are, each of your eyes would be the size of a grapefruit. Think about that for a minute. It would be really something to have eyes that big, wouldn't it? I mean, we would have amazing vision. However, eyes that size and a skull that small, or as small as ours, leads to an interesting problem. And that would be a very small brain pan, which would lead to a pretty small brain. Now, you've probably seen cartoons and commercials of wise old owls giving us advice about everything. Well, that's not the case. These guys are not the smartest bird in the tree. However, what they can do with that little brain is pretty incredible. These guys are amazing hunters. But those great big orbital bones surrounding those eyes really make for a small brain pan. Now, Iris, being a raptor and in the raptor family, is federally protected. The US government says that there is no harming, taking captive or killing any raptor. And the raptor family includes hawks, owls, eagles, condors, and vultures. So yes, it is illegal to mess with the turkey buzzard. But the reason that all raptors are protected is because there's one very special bird in that group that I just mentioned, and that is a symbol of our country, the bald eagle. So because the bald eagle is a symbol, they are all federally protected. Beautiful birds, and oh, by the way, I don't know if you're aware, but the bald eagle migrates through Houston every early spring and late fall. If you get a chance to go to a place where there is a water supply and pine trees, like maybe up near Huntsville or Conroe, or even down near Nassau Bay, you may see a mated pair of eagles and a nest. It is really something to see. These eagles in flight are incredible. As you can see, Iris's tiny little feet here, just to give you an example of size, a full-grown adult eagle's foot is bigger than my hand. So look at the size between that and Iris's. Pretty incredible. So worth seeing if you ever get an opportunity. You've also maybe have heard that owls can turn their head 360 degrees, spinning all the way around. That is also another myth, but you'll notice she can really turn it almost all the way back so that she's looking over her tail feathers, like right there. That is a 270-degree turn that she can make with that head because she has a few extra vertebrae in her spine that allows her to do that. And the reason she has to do it is because, unlike you, her eyeballs are actually fixed in the socket and can't turn. So she can't move her eyes without turning her head and see what's coming up beside her. So she has to move the neck instead. It's kind of a cool little thing that you may not know about owls. Now, we're going to put Miss Iris away and meet our very last critter. Hold on just 1 second. Let me get her back. And I'm going to introduce you to the only mammal that we have with us here today, who also happens to be incredibly special and unique, because this is the only marsupial in all of North America. Now, marsupials are critters with pouches that allow them to carry their young. And this little guy is the only species here in all of North America that can do this. Now, in Australia, there are wallabies, koalas, wombats, kangaroos, They all have pouches. In America, all we've got is the Virginia opossum. This is Pugsley. Now, let's discuss a few possum myths. First of all, let me tell you that opossums are harmless to humans. Let me repeat that. Opossums are harmless to humans. Opossums carry no diseases that they can communicate to you or to your dogs or cats. And opossums are very shy, sweet little creatures who just want to do what they do and be left alone. And what they do is pretty great. They make wonderful neighbors because they eat absolutely everything that you don't want hanging around in your yard, including mice, rats, snakes, cockroaches, tree roaches, and ticks. Now, ticks carry a very nasty little virus called Lyme disease, which is highly contractable by humans because each possum in Houston, on average, eats up to 5,000 ticks in a summer. These little guys actually help keep us healthier, which I think is a very neighborly thing to do. Now, I can't tell you that they are incapable of contracting rabies because all mammals on the planet, including whales, are capable of contracting rabies. However, their body temperature has to be a certain degree before that disease can become contagious and grow inside their body. Gestate. These little guys' body temperature is too low for that to happen. They average 92 to 94 degrees, and the average body temperature has to be 95 and up. So they are not considered a rabies vector species. So not something to worry about. There's only been 2 known cases of rabid opossum in Houston in the last 150 years. So not something to be nervous about. Now, if you see a possum, say in your yard, in your garage, under your deck, when he first sees you, the very first thing he's going to do is freeze solid and give you a, you don't see me, right? Look, that's what they do. If that doesn't work and you're still a little too close and you're making him nervous, it's going to open his mouth a nearly fully 90 degrees, show you all 50 of his very, very sharp teeth, and hiss like crazy. And let me tell you, it is a very scary display. It is truly frightening. However, it is literally their only defense. If hissing at you doesn't work, they do the only other thing they can do, and that's faint. Now, fainting or playing possum is not something they can choose to do. It is an involuntary response, and they can be out from 10 minutes to 3 hours at a time. So if you find a possum that you're absolutely convinced is dead, please just leave it alone and check back on it in a couple of hours. Please never, ever pick them up and put them in a trash can. Because once you do, when they wake up, they can't climb out. They do have very sharp-looking little claws, but they're actually nails, just like ours, made out of keratin, and they're pretty soft. They can't use them to climb out of the inside of a trash can. They're made solely to grip rough surfaces like tree trunks, etc., and fences, which is what they climb. So check back in a couple hours. Chances are he woke up and he scurried off and he's fine. We want to ask you please also to never ever try to scare a possum into a faint. That is like giving them a heart attack. It's really, really tough on their body. So we don't ever want to do that. We just want to leave them alone and let them do what they do. They are very good neighbors to have and are completely harmless to you. Now, dogs do not like possums. And the number one reason they are brought into us here at the center is dog attack. So if you have dogs in your yard, you probably do not want to try to attract a possum at any point. And you can feed possums in your yard if you want to, but you can't keep them there. You can't put them in a cage. You can't fence them in. And of course, you can't take them in the house or anything like that. Because like I said, it is illegal to keep any wildlife as a pet in Texas. But if you choose to put out some dinner leftovers or some nuts, fruits, veggies, berries, things like that, Sooner or later, you may have a possum come by, and if he decides your yard is safe for him and you put some food out for him, he may come back every evening and look for more. They will make your yard part of their territory. So good neighbors to have around. Please spread the word. Please let all your friends and neighbors and relatives know there is no reason to be afraid of possums. All we need to do is just leave them alone. I talked about their very sharp teeth, but biting is just not a natural instinct for them. They just don't do it. You would literally, and although you would never ever do this, put your hand right in their face and mess with them before they'd even consider biting. They are just very, very shy, and they just want to be left alone. And as you can tell, their only obsession from watching Pugsley here is food. That's all that matters, is the food. So good neighbors to have around. Now, as soon as we are open back up to the public, although we are open right now to take in rescued animals. So if you do find an animal in need, please feel free to contact us immediately. We can set up an appointment to have you come and drop that baby or wild animal off to us, and we will take care of them and return back to the wild. But as soon as we fully open again to the public, you can actually come to the center and visit us, meet some more of our amazing animal ambassadors right here in our lobby. We'd love to have you come by and see us anytime. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope to see you here soon.